Last September, during the Ukrainian lightning counteroffensive that recaptured much of the Russian-occupied territory in the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian soldiers were hit by shells from retreating Russian tanks.
Саня, що ти на то все скажеш?
Я радий.
1 minute, Alexander Karpets was chatting with a cameraman. The next moment, his jaw was blown off.
My head snapped back. It just dropped. The jaw was torn off. There was nothing to keep the head steady. I realized that rolling over on my side was not an option. I tried to get up, first on my knees. That's how I crawled out of those bushes. I walked literally 15 meters on my knees.
Karpets was rescued from the battlefield and underwent a long series of surgeries to restore his face. He has just been transported to the city of Chelich, Poland, where the main hospital features the flags of Canada, Poland, and Ukraine. This is the Polish home of the Canada-Ukraine Surgical Aid Program. Dr. Ole Antonishin, a plastic surgeon from Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto, is here leading a team of more than 50 medical practitioners who have come from Canada on a 2-week volunteer mission to treat the most complicated of war wounds suffered by Ukrainians. This program has been in operation since 2015.
Well, we have two main goals. The first is to provide care for patients who have very significant trauma, care that might not otherwise be provided in Ukraine, just to assist the surgeons there. And the second is that we want to make sure that we provide Ukrainian surgeons with the skills and technology and the hardware that they would need to do this themselves in the country. So they're self-sufficient.
There seems to be a dramatic story behind every Ukrainian patient being treated here by the Canadian medical team. Ksenia Todorova is a police officer in Ukraine. Last December, she was going to inspect a car when a mine was set off. It exploded near her face.
The right eye was knocked out, the eyelids and a cheek were cut. A toe on my right foot was torn off, multiple shrapnel wounds throughout the body, fracture of the right leg, the nerve on the left hand was cut, and an open head injury.
Former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine Roman Waschuk now works in Krakow and has been following the surgical aid program.
I saw them in action in Kyiv, in Lviv, in Odessa. And everything they've done is they've done together with Ukrainian doctors, Ukrainian military doctors and civilian doctors. And so it really is a kind of person-to-person transfer of knowledge and expertise, and partially then also learning from each other.
One of the star patients of the Canadian medical team is Andrei Usach. A former Ukrainian soldier, he was injured back in 2014 when the Russians first invaded. In the fierce fighting around the Luhansk airport, a Russian Grad missile exploded beside him.
The fragments flew in and tore my face. I began to lose consciousness. Here, almost everything was torn apart. Part of the jaw was torn out, my teeth. I turned my head and I saw there was practically no leg. It was in this position, just not metal. And you realize that you've lost your leg. Then I lost consciousness, and I woke up on some table in a hangar. I remember the moment they cut off my leg. It was very painful.
Usach was expected to become a triple amputee, but one leg and one hand were miraculously saved. He went through a long series of surgeries in Ukraine and in Canada to replace his missing jaw. He says the Canadian surgeons had to slit the skin under his jaw from ear to ear and fold up his face in half.
They did surgery on my face, starting from here, here, and here. Everything was cut up here, and then they went back. That's how they did it. They would sew it up, and this procedure happened 5 or 6 times.
In preparation for the surgery, he teared up because the description of the operation was presented to him, and it required removing bone and tissue from his shoulder blade, from his scapula, to reconstruct the missing bone in his jaw.
Usach was upset by the surgical plan because he had taken up competitive archery as part of his rehabilitation, and he was worried that taking a piece of bone from his shoulder to fix his jaw would impede his archery career.
He welled up in tears and he said, you know, I am scheduled to go to the Invictus Games and I'm representing Ukraine as an archer. And so the ENT surgeons guaranteed him, they said, we'll take this bone, it'll be sore, you're a young guy, you'll recover, and if that's the hand that you hold, the arm that you hold and stabilize the bow in, you'll be perfectly fine with that. And so he trusted us with that.
Back in Poland, Alexander Karpets has a modest goal: not to scare his children and his nieces and nephews when they see him.
I want children not to be frightened to see me. I hope that a moment will come when I can walk without a mask and children will not be afraid of me.
If I look at it right now, that prosthesis is sitting, to me, looks like 5 millimeters lower, you know?
Ksenia Todorova was an artist before she became a police officer. She has an aesthetic appreciation for the correction she hopes the Canadian surgical team can accomplish to her face.
The earth created and gave each of us harmony. When an imbalance occurs, for example, when the eye is in the wrong place or the jaw is broken, is unnatural. Therefore, it's very important to look harmonious, beautiful, so that no one is surprised by your appearance.
I find it more rewarding to provide that treatment. I know that they won't get that treatment anywhere else. I find it more rewarding than I would in my own personal practice. So.
The expertise and the equipment that the Ukrainian doctors gain, that they're then able to use not during that 1 or 2 week period, but year round in treating their patients. So it is the multiplier effect of both knowledge transfer and equipment transfer that then goes directly into the Ukrainian military medical and civilian medical systems.
Dr. Stephen McCabe is a world-renowned hand surgeon who is part of the team. He gets emotional when you ask why he is doing this.
It's a good question. I think that, it's an outrage against what's happened, and it's something that I can do to participate. Yeah, I think it's a murderous campaign that's totally unnecessary.
I think it's very important that everyone else in the world just understands how important it is to defeat Russia as quickly as possible to end that pain and suffering. The sooner it happens, the better.
Andrei Usach recovered just as the doctors promised and went on to win an archery gold medal at the 2018 Invictus Games in Australia. It was the pinnacle of a long struggle for him.
When you realize that you'll be with your country's flag on a pedestal, there's such an emotional upsurge. It's hard to find words. Huge pride that you had the honor to represent your country and you did not disgrace it. I accomplished that goal.
There you go, so let's try 2.
Many thanks to the Canadian mission for helping Ukrainians. I bow to them and I speak on behalf of the whole Ukraine.
I'd like to be an example for someone. Perhaps a light at the end of the tunnel for someone looking at himself who cannot return from that pit called war, but seeing the actions of other people finds incentives in life.
The fat's going in a different plane.
I am very grateful to them. I don't even know how to express it. If a person abandons everything, flies halfway around the world to help other people, this is what legends are made of.
This surgical aid program is funded by the Canada-Ukraine Foundation and Sunnybrook Hospital. It has helped almost 400 Ukrainian patients, and those Canadian volunteers will keep doing it. The next mission is in September.